A very good evening and a warm welcome to our first edition of UBC News Tonight on this 18th day of April 2024. I'm Lauryn Masika Kazimoto. Now, before we get into tonight's news bulletin, let's first take a look at the top stories tonight. And in our top stories tonight, Finance Minister Kasaija promises solution if traders meet the president. 1,903 handed certificates of customary ownership in Amolata. Speaker Among tasks each Ugandan to plant 5 trees in honor of Dr. Tom Okurut. And in sports, Victoria Pearls return to the qualifiers for the second time to seek a spot in the ICC Top 20 Women's World Cup. Good evening once again. Now, all is set at Chitebi Senior Secondary School in Lubaga Division ahead of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni's visit scheduled for tomorrow, Friday, the 19th of April 2024, where he's expected to launch the National Patriotism Environmental Protection Campaign. We have the details in this report.
All roads will be heading to Chitebi Senior Secondary School in Lubaga Division, Friday 19th April 2024. Here, the President of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will be the chief guest at the launch of the National Patriotism Environmental Protection Campaign.
Where we are going to plant trees and also to look at our environment as a whole. We are aware that the environment has actually been abused. The environment is a very key factor in all our lives.
At the school, students have been this Thursday afternoon conducting last-time rehearsals ahead of the Friday event.
This is a USE school, a Universal Secondary Education School. But it is one of those success stories. And it has a model patriotism club. So we wanted people to come to Chitebi and see that some of these projects can actually government programs like Universal Secondary Education can be a success. So in this school we have over 4,000 students. There is enough infrastructure to assist all these students in their learning capacities. That is why we chose Chitebi, so that people can come and see what some of these programs can be like and how successful they can.
According to the program, the President and the First Lady are expected at the event by 11 a.m.
And in this, we expect them to actually plant the first trees as a sign of the launch of the tree planting session. And they will also be commissioning 2 buildings in this school, buildings that have been put up to help boost the infrastructure in the school.
The intention of the flag off is, among others, to make these youth to be pastors of environmental protection.
So the campaign has been spearheaded by His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to make sure that Ugandans are alert about the environment and the dire effects if we mismanage our environment.
By close of the day, security and other service providers have already taken positions at the school, waiting for the D-Day. Roberto Nyango, UBC News.
A high-level meeting held at State House in Entebbe has paved way for the establishment of the Kampala Marathon, a prestigious event with an investment worth $4.6 million. The meeting, hosted by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, saw the participation of Ambassador Dr. Amina J. Mohammed, the former Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Heritage and Culture in Kenya, Bob Verbeek, the CEO and founder of the renowned sports marketing agency Golazo, Honorable Peter Ogwang, the State Minister of Education responsible for sports, and Odrek Rabogo, the Presidential Advisor, Special Duties and Chairman of PASID, Uganda. During the meeting, President Museveni committed the government of Uganda's support by approving funding for the Kampala Marathon. The ambitious undertaking seeks to attract elite runners from Uganda and around the world, inviting global elite participants to compete in the annual event, with an expected attendance of 20,000 runners. The organizers are committed to ensuring that Kampala Marathon adheres to the international standards and best practices. An experienced team led by the Ministry of Education and Sports and assisted by Bob Verbeek will oversee all aspects of the marathon's organization, from course management and participation registration to security and hospitality. The inaugural edition of the Kampala Marathon is scheduled to take place in November 2024. And in other related news, Honorable Peter Ogwang informed the President that the National High Altitude Training Center in Kapchorwa is ready for commissioning. Now, the Vice President of Uganda, Major Retired Jessica Lupo, is optimistic and confident that the country has the capacity to eliminate malaria by 2030 through the numerous interventions put in place by scientists in the country. Alupo revealed that government has included malaria as a cross-cutting issue in the budget call circular of 2024-2025, as she stressed the need for special budget for malaria if it is to be eradicated by 2030.
Uganda continues to grapple with the burden of malaria epidemic despite all the interventions put in place. It is for this reason that the Ministry of Health has organized a scientific colloquium on malaria to forge a way on how to get back on track and end malaria by 2030. The Vice President, Major Retired Jessica Alupo, officiated the scientific meeting on malaria and reassured scientists and the general public that government is committed on the fight against malaria.
Government is stepping up progress in the fight against malaria through increased domestic funding, and as such, we have included malaria as a cross-cutting issue in the budget called Circular 2024-2025. Government is committed to strengthening health systems to better diagnose at community level through the village health teams and community health extension workers, and to integrate the fight against malaria in efforts to combat climate change.
We are currently facing biological threats to our malaria prevention and control tools, which one of them has just been presented here. Studies have also documented changes in species of malaria vectors as well as their behavior. All these call for us to heighten our understanding of the malaria parasite, vectors, control, tools, operations.
The Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Diana Atwine, called for a change and a new approach in tackling malaria in the country, since there is no single bullet that can nip malaria.
Malaria has killed more people than COVID. Malaria continues to be the biggest killer of our people in our country. When you look at our data of mortality in our country, malaria is still the leading cause, yet we know everything about malaria. So I think this conference gives us opportunity to think out of the box. What are we not doing right? Where have we not performed? If science speaks today, can we take science as evidence-based and we design our interventions based on science, and we see malaria reduce significantly, and we see mortality and morbidity due to malaria reduce significantly?
The global burden of disease from malaria is still very high, as shown by the World Malaria Report of 2023. Where we see over 249 million people suffering from it, 94% of them in our continent. Our people Close to 610,000 die every year from this disease. And again, 95% of them are in Africa. It is quite unacceptable.
Dr. Emma Mugisha, the Senior Advisor, Vaccine and Immunizations at PATH, revealed that World Health Organization recommends the programmatic use of malaria vaccines for prevention of malaria in children living in malaria epidemic areas of high transmission. Dr. Mugisha noted that Uganda is among the 10 additional countries that are to roll out malaria vaccines in 2024 and reassured the public that the malaria vaccine is safe.
So there are 2 vaccines that we have so far. There is the RTS adjuvanted with AS01 produced by GSK, which was pre-qualified by WHO in 2022. And then we have the R21, which is adjuvanted by Matrix M, which is manufactured by Oxford. These are the 2 vaccines that have been recommended by WHO. Important to mention, there are 4 doses for any of these vaccines that are used. It's not 1 dose that will be enough. It's not 2, it's not 3, but there must be 4 doses. There's a tendency in our country that somebody receives the first dose and assumes is protected, and which is not the case. So we need support to make sure that everyone who is eligible receives the 4 doses.
During the scientific meeting on malaria, the late Eli Tumwine was recognized for his tremendous effort in the fight against malaria. The Permanent Secretary, Minister of Health, Dr. Diane Twine, also was recognized among others. Zahara Abigaba, UBC News.
The government chief whip, Dennis Hamson Obua, has asked Ugandans to support all wealth creation programs initiated by President Museveni, whose dream is to transform Uganda into modernity. The government chief whip, who is also the Member of Parliament for Ajuri County, made the remarks today as the chief guest during the second graduation of 478 students, who include the second and third cohorts who successfully completed their vocational training at Lira Presidential Skilling Hub in Lango Sub-County.
The graduates drawn from 9 districts that make up Lango Sub-Region were awarded with certificates in 7 employable vocational disciplines, including tailoring and design, hairdressing and makeup, building and construction practice, carpentry and joinery, welding and metal fabrication, bakery and confectionery, and leather processing. The government chief whip informed the gathering that in support of wealth creation programs in Lango, the NRM government continues to inject resources in the region.
The issue is now, which path are you going to choose? The path of going back to where you were, or you want to join those in the money economy? The question is, how high would you want to fly? Which altitude? What will determine how high you will fly is your attitude. If you have trained in carpentry and you don't have the positive attitude of the skills you have acquired, you will never fly beyond my height. But if you have done carpentry and your attitude is positive, your altitude will go beyond the altitude of a plane.
The State House Comptroller, Jane Bareche, expressed gratitude to the Minister of Education and Sports together with the Directorate of Industrial Training for ensuring quality learning in the presidential skilling hubs.
As State House and the President, we have a plan of these youth after training, and the plan we have is that we wanted to put up a common user facility in at least 2 districts of a region. These are big workshops that have a display side, that have a workshop behind, where these youth can go into their different skills and do work and display to the market, and they are sold on a rotational basis. Because there are many, we can't put them there all together. They work on a rotational basis, they pick capital after doing their sales, if leaders help them to get business.
Some of the graduates from this skilling hub also shared their success stories.
Some months ago, I was here at the Presidential Skilling Hub for Lango Sub-Region, pursuing knowledges and skills in the field of bakery and confectionaries. And here I'm back before you to come and give a real life testimony of transformation brought to my life through the proper and well-mentored orientation of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda towards the transformation of his Bazukulus, his grandchildren who had already lost hope. And see from me, hope is being restored, and I speak with courage and strong heart.
On his part, the Director of Presidential Projects and Skilling Hubs, Engineer Raymond Kamjisha, called for transparency in selection of students to join the skilling hubs if vulnerable and educated children are to benefit.
Government of Uganda has released more funds towards its household poverty alleviation initiative, the Parish Development Model, as confirmed by Prime Minister Robina Nabanja. We have the details on this report.
Government of Uganda has released more funds towards its household poverty alleviation initiative, the Parish Development Model. This was confirmed by the Prime Minister Robina Nabanja. Unlike before, the beneficiaries of funds will receive funds on their phones using the mobile wallet app. Postbank Uganda, the government distribution partner, announced that each member who is eligible will in earnest receive funds for development.
How have we done on PDM? We had about 2,500 circles before, which we paid. So we've so far paid 250,000 beneficiaries on PDM.
The amount totaling up to 267 billion was dispersed among 5,322 government-identified and vetted circles countrywide, with each earmarked to receive 50 million shillings. Postbank received the latest batch of money from government on Tuesday to distribute to over 5,000 circles around the country, covering over 100 districts. Postbank further revealed that the cash disbursement process through the Wendy platform will allow quick allocation countrywide.
Most of this, over 200,000 beneficiaries, have been through Wendy, because Wendy is very seamless. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're sitting in a garden or whether you don't have to move physically to a bank. Because in Uganda you have over 40 districts where you don't even have a single bank branch. So then how will you pay those people, yet they are beneficiaries? And that's where things like Wendy come in, so that people don't have to physically move to access funds. And we are expecting to pay a lot more. It's an exercise that we've invested in.
Postbank was identified as a key player in the distribution of the PDM cash to recipients countrywide to allow a fast, effective and e-platform complementing a number of branch networks to reduce on operational shortcomings. The Parish Development Model seeks to propel the 39% of Uganda's population who are still stuck in the subsistence economy into the money economy. The model was designed to follow a logical pattern of key processes, including building infrastructure and systems that support processing and marketing, strengthening participatory planning by local communities, and providing access to financial services to households that operate in the subsistence economy.
State Minister for Lands, Dr. Sam Mayanja, has ordered the RCC of Rubaga to ensure security on the land disputed between the family members of Ngabi clan located in Mutundwe, Rubaga Division, where the leader of the clan, Salongo Alozias Magandazi, who was evicted following a court order forcing him to vacate immediately after he was convicted of trespassing on the land. After the minister visited the locus, where one side of Rosemary Naiga, Teresa Nantale and Stephen Masengere were not represented, and on conclusion he asked all sides to be represented on the next meeting, and due to the situation, the minister with the security team could not access the place.
ate bwe bibeera mu byakooti tuteeka kugondera ki tewali ali waggulu w'amateeka wano nambiro ng'amanyi buli omu akola ki wali kati nange mbadde munyonyola naye nga mbanyonyola kyenakola kyenalaba kati atuwadde amagezi atuwa budde okay muleke tukole ekyo.
When their father Edward Kasozi was passing, he left a will. And in his will, which I have here with me, he clearly didn't mention this property where the house was demolished to be part of his estate. He clearly indicated that this land at Mutundwe, the land belongs to the Ngabi clan.
I was petitioned by Mr. Nsamba Mugandas, who is also the head of the Ngabi clan, that the Kirani land has been attacked and possessed by other people, and that there was a court order directed against him personally, but the execution is against the clan property. So I came here to settle that part, but that was before I could see the documents on the other side. Now, when I came here, I passed via the RDC's office and tried to locate the file to be briefed. I've seen the other documents on the other, and I've seen that the RDC, in putting back these ladies you have seen, the old people, was following a court order. Now the place is sealed, therefore I cannot break in. And the ladies have told me they have a lawyer, and the lawyer is not here. Therefore, the other side of their lawyer, they have, each side has a constitutional right to be represented by a lawyer. So since the other lawyer is not there, I've put off the meeting until we shall contact them again. And their lawyer has said, when both lawyers are here, we conduct a proper locus visit, then we shall make a final decision.
UBC News Tonight. Now, in more news this evening, the Minister of Lands and Urban Development has rallied the people of northern Uganda to register their lands in a bid to scale down land disputes. In her written statement at the official handover of 1,900 certificates of customary ownership in Amalata district, Nabakoba said the certificates will also secure customary landowners from land grabbers.
At least 1,900 residents of Amolatar district in northern Uganda have secured their lands by obtaining certificates of customary ownership. The Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development was represented by the RDC.
This is the best way to secure customary ownership rights and a parish development model investment of customary land owners countrywide.
Nabakob applauded the people of Amolatar for accepting to register their lands. She says holders of these certificates will be shielded from land grabbers and rallied the public to embrace this initiative.
I want to thank GIZ and GFA, by and large, the communities who accepted to have their land back.
I urge more families and clans to embrace this government intervention because it is the only way land conflicts will be brought to an end.
These titles are among the first certificates of customary ownership that were generated and printed digitally.
The demarcation has been done using the traditional boundary markers, and it has been reinforced by the survey coordinates. The certificate confers rights, is legal documentation, you hold the land in perpetuity, and it is the government document that government will use to defend the owners.
Mapping and registration of customary land titles was a 2-year project implemented by GIZ through GFA Consulting Group under the Responsible Land Policy Uganda program with the support from the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development.
Within these 2 years, we had over 3,000 parcels mapped. And as of today, we have distributed about 1,900 certificates of customary ownership.
And during the phase-out process, we came up with a self-financing model as a sustainability measure. And in this model, the community members contribute resources or money and this money is used to facilitate the whole process of land registration.
The LC3 chairperson Agwingere Sub-County says the project has triggered development and scaled down cases of land dispute.
Petty issues like LC2 handling cases, it has reduced.
Our children and even those who will follow us afterward, this land will be kept for a long period of time.
Local governments are currently piloting self-financed customary land registration with the guidance from the ministry. Registered land supports the resolution of land grievances and encourages development. Eddie Olwa, UBC News.
UBC News tonight. Now, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has tasked Ugandans to prioritize on issues that foster value addition rather than handle multiple issues with no results. Museveni says in doing so, it has seen Uganda entering the lower middle income status. This was during the commissioning of the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal buildings in Uganda.
For over 57 years, the Judiciary has been struggling to have a home for the appellant courts, the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal. In 1999, the idea of constructing these courts was unveiled. However, it remained shelved until 2014, when it was approved by the Judiciary top management, and the construction kicked off in 2019. 4 years later, the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal buildings have today been commissioned with an aim of bringing services closer to the people. As the Permanent Secretary for Judiciary, Pras Bigirimana, explains.
A big statement to confirm that after all, government can deliver, especially when the players have got their what I call abundance mentality, coupled with patriotism. And all the funding has been from the government of Uganda.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni commissioned these buildings at the Judiciary headquarters in Kampala, where officials from the Executive, Judiciary, and the Parliament plus development partners were in attendance. Museveni commended the Judiciary on this milestone, attributing it to patience and planning by the NRM government.
The ones who saw and mobilized all the rest of us. So I salute the CJs who are there, the Wambuzi, my schoolmate Odoki. Now I want to thank the Judiciary again for what the CJ has correctly called original justice.
President Museveni further urged Ugandans to prioritize on matters that ensure value addition for the betterment of the country.
The commissioning of this building again confirmed that there is nothing we cannot do if we prioritize. At one time, the World Bank and the European Union didn't want to give us money for the roads. I don't know why. You know, they're usually running up and down. So I told my people, forget about these people. The Banyankole say, etajujurenyoko, kobo nechirenjo tunari. A cow which is not your mother's bride price. Even if they give you a hoof, value to raw materials, but using knowledge to create products like the automobiles, Kira Motors. This is not just adding value, it is producing something out of so many elements using the brain.
On his part, the Chief Justice Alfonso Wenyudolo said these buildings will save the Judiciary 6 billion shillings annually.
The construction of these two buildings, the twin towers, comes 85 years after the construction of the High Court building as the headquarters of the Judiciary in 1930. Creating courts in rented premises compromises the security of the courts. Second, the courts would operate in premises designed as business arcades or residential apartments.
The Deputy Chief Justice Richard Butera, on behalf of all justices and support staff, said they are glad to have a home with no interruptions during work.
Never be proud of our Twin Towers. The judiciary's efforts are now geared towards transformation agenda, and the construction of such buildings will change our trajectory for good, since our good work, physical environment, and staff activities will be enhanced and staff morale will be high.
During the function, various people who saw the success of the completion of these courts were awarded, including Emeritus Justices Benjamin Odoki, Bart Katrebe, Judiciary Permanent Secretary Parish Bigirimana, Chief Justice Owonyidoro, Engineer Abal, among others. Rebecca Nantongo, Susan Inabugude, UBC News.
The Assistant Registrar, Mukono High Court, Nasif Umar Mubiru, has promised to deliver a ruling on a land dispute involving Fred Nganda, Chifu Bangabo and Betty Nachitio in Buikwe district in a month's time. Now, this was during his recent locust visit in Nakatiaba village in Buikwe district. Both parties are claiming legitimate rights to a 20-acre piece of land. We have the details.
A contentious land dispute between Fred Ganda Chifu Bangabo and Betty Nachitio and others in Buikwe district is set to be resolved by the High Court. The Assistant Registrar Mukono High Court, Nasif Umar Mubiru, disclosed this while conducting a locust visit in Nakatiaba village, Sugu Parish, Buikwe district, to determine the facts of the case.
We've inspected the suit land, and it is our time to go back, look at the evidence, and then make a decision. We are rolling the 15th of May 2024 at 11:30.
Chifu Bangabo alleges that he purchased the said 20 acres of land without involving the defendants, leading to the legal battle following the inspection of the disputed Bibanja.
I ran to court because of this building, which is my land. And the wall also, which is covering about 7 acres. It is another contested wall.
Chifu Bangabo petitioned the High Court for a temporary injunction against the defendants, who have commenced renovations on their ancestral home situated on the disputed land. While Chifu Bangabo argues that the defendants lack proper land rights, the defendants counterclaim equitable interest and assert their right to utilize their Bibanja.
The pieces of land in contention are majorly this specific one where the wall fence is, including this incomplete standing structure which is being occupied by some of the respondents. But we expect to have details coming later. Let us hope for the best. The fact of coming today was majorly to see what is here, not to argue the case. And court has seen, court will decide.
The defendants are Betty Nachitio, Tamale Frank, Sunday Nkoyoyo, and Victor Balibwa. The disputed site includes ancestral graveyards and gardens. The High Court's ruling will be pivotal in resolving this contentious land dispute.
Fred!
Osmosis.
Freddy! Fred Dollar, my boss, CEO Inojo, the general of generals, the conqueror of conquerors, the first and the final, the sky above the skies, the promised land, the terms and the conditions, the international king crocodile, the source of the
Osmosis.
Nile.
I don't have money today.
Just take a polite loan of 200K to stock my shop. the signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hustle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? Wesotinge. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Once upon a time, there lived identical twins who gave birth to beautiful princes and princesses.
Their mothers gave their babies' bodies a lot of care by applying on their skin with baby Junior jelly.
Though dried their chariots and everyone would admire their glowing skin. Fun fact, baby Junior prevents diaper rash, dry and sensitive skin.
Moms all over Africa love baby Junior jelly. Baby Junior's the skin. No more worries anymore. Boo, 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 boo. Baby Junior. Baby Junior.
The government of Uganda and the Uganda Bureau of Statistics is calling upon all stakeholders such as the chief administrative officers, city mayors, resident city commissioners, city clerks, city and division councillors, wards and LC chairpersons, as well as the residents and business communities to cooperate with the UBOS field teams as we embark on advanced preparations to conduct the National Population and Housing Census on the 10th of May 2024. The census will be a 10-day exercise to obtain statistical data and information that will be used for planning and policy formulation, including information on 1. How many we are, 2. Where we are, 3. How we are living, 4. What we own, and 5. Where we access services from. The Uganda Bureau of Statistics has now started listing of households and mapping in the 11 cities of Arua, Fort Portal, Gulu, Hoima, Jinja, Lira, Mbale, Masaka, Mbarara, Soroti, and in the Greater Kampala comprising of Kampala, Wakiso, and Mukono districts. For more information, please call 0755 342 128 or 0773 342 128. This message is brought to you by the Executive Director and Census Commissioner, Uganda Bureau of Statistics. Census 2024. It matters to be counted.
Welcome back from that break. Now in more news this evening, the Executive Director, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, Dr. Chris Mukiza, has warned anybody planning to sabotage the upcoming National Population and Housing Exercise. He says politicians or religious leaders who discourage people from participating will face the courts of law. Dr. Mukiza made the remarks while meeting the religious leaders across the country at Sheraton Hotel in Kampala.
It was a heated discussion between religious leaders and Uganda Bureau of Statistics at Sheraton Hotel in Kampala over the role of religious leaders in the forthcoming National Population and Housing Census. During the meet, a section of the born-again faith criticized UBOS for not considering them as a religion on their questionnaire for census.
Religion, you say I'm born again. What they tell you, they ask you, where did you come from before you became born again? What is the religion of your parents? Faith and religion is a choice and it's personal. You can't be a Muslim because your father is a Muslim. You can't be a Mlokole because your mother is a Mlokole. This is a personal thing. So I was trying to tell you, boss, not to confuse people. When I say I am born again, take me as born again. There are some other religions.
The same issue was raised by the Baptist Union of Uganda, who complained of being eliminated from the questionnaire as a religion.
The Baptists are not included in the questionnaire for census. And so if you asked any Baptist using this questionnaire, they would not know what to feel. And the use of the word born again, which is a biblical word, everyone who subscribes to the Bible will say we are born again. Anglicans will feel we are born again.
However, the Executive Director, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, Dr. Chris Mukiza, says anybody planning to sabotage the upcoming national population and housing exercise will face the law.
That engineering is enshrined in the Bible, right from Numbers on through. So which engineering says you don't count? When the gospel, when the word is saying you must count, be counted. So let's see, those people from Uganda, and especially the PS, you better visit your home and tell that person that they are about to commit a crime.
He instead appealed to religious leaders to mobilize their followers to participate in the census.
And let's have this census with robust results. You go and preach the gospel as you preach the gospel of the born again and what have you.
The chairperson of Interreligious Council of Uganda and the Archbishop of Church of Uganda, Dr. Stephen Kazimba, urged fellow leaders to embrace the exercise and mobilize the populace to participate.
Let us use all platforms and networks available to popularize and spread awareness about the Uganda National Population Census. Just like I mentioned in my pastoral letter that I put out recently, I encourage all Ugandans to participate fully. Please give information to enumerators as accurately as you know.
This year's census exercise is slated to take place from 10th to 19th of May. Philip Aguta for UBC News in Kampala.
Thank you. My request that this
The Speaker of Parliament, Right Honourable Anita Among Annette, has tasked each Ugandan to plant at least 5 trees in honour of Dr. Tom Okurut. The former Executive Director, National Environment Authority, died on Sunday at Platinum Hospital, leaving an indelible mark on enforcement of environmental conservation regulations. This was all said of him during a requiem service at St. Luke Church of Uganda in Ntinda, where the Gospel of Unity was preached amongst the people of Teso.
This is how overfilled St. Luke Church of Uganda was in Ntinda, a suburb of Kampala, the capital city of Uganda. The congregants were here to condole with the bereaved family of Dr. Tom Okurut, who died on Sunday at Platinum Hospital. To join the mourners was the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among Annette, who recounted her first and subsequent encounters with the deceased.
We all agree that Dr. Okurut, when he was in NEMA, was very, very crucial in the regulation and enforcement against the threats to environment and conservation. Doctor would always tell us, please advise members of Parliament to plant trees. Please advise members of Parliament to conserve environment.
In him, she saw an environmentalist whose legacy is worth protecting, hence the need to plant trees in his honor.
How I wish each of us, when we live here, we should say, because we loved Tom, let's plant at least 5 trees in memory of Tom. Tom is no more, but he has left a legacy behind.
The unity displayed at Dr. Okurut's funeral church service is the same that she wants to see even after he's buried.
Teso would really develop. I wish we were so united like this. Teso would develop.
This is an indicator that the foreign conservationists lived a meaningful life, a fact that the family is alive too.
Papa was very exemplary, and he always challenged us to achieve to the best of our abilities.
No matter what, no matter how many we were, we never lacked. He worked tirelessly.
The widow to the deceased, Dr. Anna Rose Ademon, recounted her life with the deceased from their first days of dating to his death.
So by the time I got my boyfriend, Tom Okurut, by then, he had just finished university and I was entering university in 1983. So that's how we met. So he became my boyfriend. Finally, he was my father because I had to take pocket money from him.
To share condolences with the family was the Vice President, Jessica Alupo. Her message was delivered by the Speaker of Parliament, emphasizing unity.
I send a heartfelt condolences to the family, friends, and everyone whose life was touched by the late in one way or the other.
Everyone dies, but not everyone lives. So I think Dr. Tom, though short a life, has lived and created impactful living in society.
The gospel of unity was embraced by all leaders, despite varying political affiliations.
I also want to emphasize the fact that unity is paramount, patriotism and nationalism. I want to thank His Excellency the President and government as a whole for having given them the opportunity to serve the country.
And one shouldn't be surprised that there has been a huge turn-up of the Teso community to pay homage to him. And this is going to be extended to the burial place in Akadot and Kongolo in Komi district.
Dr. Tom Okurut retired in July 2021 as the Executive Director of NEMA after serving 2 5-year terms. He will be laid to rest on Saturday, 20th April 2024, at his ancestral home in Akadot, Mukongoro in Komi district. Henry Okurut, UBC.
May his soul continue to rest in peace. Now in more news this evening, the Minister for Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, Hilary Onek, has called for more funding of refugee camps in Uganda. Onek was attending an engagement meeting with district representatives engaged in the implementation of the comprehensive refugee framework in Uganda. The meeting, which was chaired by the State Minister for Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Refugee, aims at signifying the commitment of partners and government towards hosting refugees in Uganda.
Community in their budgets, take America, Britain, UK, Germany, and others. In their budgets, usually, these are countries which are wealthy. They have some little allocation for donation to countries which has problem, to donate for refugee purposes. But now, in the world, the war, the turbulence, fighting has continued. Ukraine came in. Now Israel with Palestinians have come in. And there's so many others. So the same resource, same money, same budget from those countries, which should have gone to help refugees in Uganda, among others, is shared now by a much bigger problem, much bigger area. The reason why whatever is coming to our country has dwindled, has become smaller, and that is where the challenge is. The only problem is the refugees. The refugee UNHCR, United Nations High Commission for Refugees, who are supposed to feed refugees, who are supposed to also look after their welfare, is the one who doesn't have much money now. They don't have much money to look after them. And yet these refugees are in our territory as Uganda. So since they are with us, how can we give a hand to see that they survive? Do we leave them to starve? These are the challenges.
UBC News Tonight takes a very short break, but we return with more stories after these messages.
Fred!
Osmosis.
Freddy! Fred Dollar, my boss, CEO Inojo, the general of generals, the conqueror of conquerors, the first and the final, the sky above the skies, the promised land, the terms and the conditions, the international king crocodile, the source of the
Osmosis.
Nile.
I don't have money today.
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hustle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
After the massive launch of the Museveni Awoma hit song in Kololo, Mukono, Nabweru Wakiso District and Masulita War Zone, Munamasa Kansereko Emma takes Museveni Awoma to Mityana on Friday, the 26th of April 2024 at Mityana Saza Ground. We shall start with Bulungi Wansi, a health camp, and then a boom of entertainment with thousands of comedians and artists, all at a free entry. Anti-Jaja Gabude. His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni will be our chief guest. Come, let's have fun with Jaja. Don't miss.
Welcome back from that break, and now into the business scene. Tea farmers and processors in Bushenyi district have appealed to government and the Ministry of Agriculture to support them with quality fertilizers if they are to maintain quality tea production. Following the fall of market prices with blame to farmers for plucking poor quality tea leaves, farmers say there is a need for government intervention to save the situation.
Tea farmers in Bushenyi have benefited from the expert opinion of Father Vincent Birungi and Zedekiah Karokora, who preached how best to reap.
But when you pick tea, there are rules. You do not just pick all the leaves. You only pluck 2 leaves and a bud. So this is the standard for picking tea in the field. Anything beyond this is not desired. Although sometimes we also pick the 2 leaves without a bud, but which is soft, what we call soft banji. It's still the topmost 2 leaves, and there is a small thing here developing, but it's not developed as this one. So this should be the standard for picking tea.
Tea is made out of good quality leaf. The factories want two leaves and a bud. Just this, 2 leaves and a bud. And it is very difficult for most farmers to pick this type of leaf. And it is very difficult for most farmers to make this type on their farms, because there are several problems that are involved to get to this type of quality. You must keep the garden 2/3 plucking, 1/3 pruned.
Karokora also says tea factories should be made export processing zones, be given incentives like tax waivers to increase production capacity to absorb supply. The issue of fertilizers was also highlighted, with farmers appealing for a remedy to improve their stock for the money economy.
The biggest problem for the farmers here in this area is fertilizers. It's too expensive for us. We can't afford to apply enough fertilizers because we spend so much money and we can't get that money from the production of the leaf.
Most of the farmers in this area belong to Chamuhunga tea. that started in 2013 and was this year ranked the best tea company in the country.
Now in our international news, we have some breaking news. The Chief of Defense Forces, Francis Ogola, is dead. Now, Ogola died after a chopper he was traveling in alongside other officials crashed in Kaben in Marakwet East on Thursday. Ogola took over as Kenya CDF on April 28, 2023. The chopper is said to have been carrying 12 people, including the officers of the rank of general, when it went down. Witnesses said it burst into flames on crashing. There was only one survivor, believed to be a photographer, other officers said. The area was cordoned off soon after the accident. The officers were surveying the area ahead of the planned deployment of more troops to battle cattle rustlers in the area. Police initially said 5 officers had died and 3 survived. The Kenya Air Force Hugh helicopter had taken off from a local primary school when it went down and burst into flames. Ogola was named the new Chief of Defense Forces in changes in the military after taking over his predecessor, General Robert Kibochi. Kibochi handed over to Ogola as CDF after attaining the mandatory exit age of 62. And now into the world of sports. The Victoria Pearls will make their second appearance at the T20 Women's Global World Cup qualifiers this April and May in Abu Dhabi to seek a slot in the ICC T20 Women's World Cup. The team representing Uganda was flagged off this morning in Lugogo by the State Minister for Sports, Peter Ogwang.
Uganda made their maiden appearance at the T20 Women's World Cup Global Qualifiers in Netherlands 2018, but did not make it past the line to the World Cup. This year, the Victoria Pearls returned to the global stage yet again to seek a slot in the 2024 ICC T20 Women's World Cup. The team will fight for one of 2 slots at the global qualifiers between April 25th and 2nd May in Abu Dhabi against Group A counterparts Scotland, Sri Lanka, Thailand and USA.
We've been preparing since 2022 for this particular tournament. Obviously, we've had ups and downs, tournaments that we have won, some that we have lost. Hopefully, we can use the lessons that we've learned in the previous tournaments, to improve on our game back in Abu Dhabi. Going back to the drawing board, we've had chats with our coaches, to work on the areas that we need to work on, especially in the batting department. Batting and fielding, and just being able to stay together and work together as a team. It helps build the unity in the team. I'm very confident that with the combination of the experienced players on the team and the youngsters on the team, I feel like we complement each other, and we should be able to put up a good fight in Abu Dhabi.
It's a T20 game. Whoever turns up well on that day takes the day. But that's something we've been working on. I think now we concentrate more on game situation, simulations, and they have been doing so well, and we believe that won't be a problem in Abu Dhabi.
The squad of 15 players led by Janet Mbabazi was flagged off this morning at Lugogo by the State Minister for Sports, Peter Ogwang, who urged the girls to do their best to achieve the ultimate prize.
I want to take the opportunity to officially hand over the flag to the national team captain and flag off Team Uganda ladies team for participate in the global International Cricket Council World Cup qualifier. I want to do this on behalf of government. For this very important, that disappointment we got in Accra should be the motivation for the most important competition we want to be. So for that, my dear daughters, seize the opportunity. We must qualify for the Women's World Cup in Dubai. And I'm very sure you can. In sports, it's good to be an underdog. And I want you to accept to be an underdog. And that's what happened in Accra. Who was Nigeria before you?
The top two sides in Group A and Group B will qualify for the semi-finals, with the two teams that reach the final earning a spot at the 2022 ICC T20 Women's World Cup in Bangladesh later this year. Grace Joyce, Kemigisa, UBC News.
And that story wraps up our first edition of UBC News tonight. Do join us for our second edition at 10 o'clock. I'm Lauryn Masika Kazimoto. See you at 10.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The general public is hereby informed that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions will hold the annual Prosecutors Symposium from 22nd to 24th of April 2024 at Hotel Africana in Kampala. The theme of this year's event is Strengthening Capacity for Prosecution to Counter Organized and Emerging Crimes. The symposium is intended to enhance the skills of prosecutors for effective execution of the prosecution function. The 7th Joan Kagezi Memorial Lecture will also be held by the office in honor of the late Joan Namazi Kagezi for her distinguished contribution to the dispensation of criminal justice on the 25th of April 2024 at Kololo Independence Grounds. It will be held under the theme Prosecution of Transnational Organized Crimes to Foster Security and Socio-Economic Development, the linkage between terrorism, human trafficking and smuggling of migrants. His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni Tibuhaburwa, President of the Republic of Uganda, is the chief guest. Please note that all prosecutors will not be at their stations during this period. The annual Prosecutors Symposium and Joan Kagezi Memorial Lecture are sponsored by the Government of Uganda. Access to Justice, JELOS Sub-Program, United Nations, Office on Drugs and Crime, UNICEF, the Human Trafficking Institute, and Redeem International.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Qualified, professional, and compassionate doctors talking real solutions to real health problems.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed viewers, fellow healthcare enthusiasts, good evening. We welcome you to yet another thrilling edition of the Doc Talk Show, where we explore a number of topics. Dr. Muyanga Andrew Mark is my name, and I'm the host tonight, leading you on a journey into the world of medicine and healthcare, where we explore a number of topics, unravel mysteries, and most of all, fashion you with information that will help you to take charge of your health. Certainly, we would like to make mention of our sponsors, that is Ministry of Health and its partners. Tonight, we are having a discussion on prostate disease in men. And in-house to do the discussion justice, certainly, are a number of discussants. Right next to me is Dr. Masaba, and right next to Dr. Masaba is Dr. Namuka, and on my far left is Dr. Odongo. I will request starting from Dr. Masaba.
So good evening, viewers. My name is Dr. Masaba Joseph. I work with Mulago National Referral Hospital, National Referral and Teaching Hospital with the Urology Unit.
Good evening, viewers. I'm Dr. Namugamasa Monica, a urologist working with the Urology Unit of Mulago National and Teaching Hospital.
Yeah, good evening, viewers. I'm Dr. Odongo James, a urology fellow in the Urology Unit in Mulago Hospital.
It's an honor having you, Dr. Masaba, Dr. Namuga, and Dr. Odongo in the house. And I believe from your introductions, you are going to do this discussion justice, and we shall leave our fellow Ugandans better equipped to handle their health. As earlier said, the discussion tonight in the house is prostate disease in men. I think it would be important to first of all start by telling us about what prostate diseases exist in men. Is it one disease? Are there many diseases? And what should we be interested in today's discussion? So I think, Dr. Namuga, would you mind helping us to create a visual image of what the prostate is, probably where it is located, so that my father in Budumbuli can visualize it as well, despite him not having even attained a primary education.
Okay, so prostate is a small organ, the size of a small onion, or your nail on the thumb finger, which is seated right below the bladder or at the bladder opening. Now, despite its location there, it's not really part of the urinary system. It's more, it's a part of the reproductive system. It functions together with the testicles and the seminal vesicles to create and enrich sperm, which is, the male reproductive fluid, so to say. However, diseases or changes within the prostate actually affect urination.
So if I've understood you well, you talked about it being somehow related in position to the urinary bladder. The bladder, in simple terms to my grandfather in Budumbuli, is the organ which stores urine before we urinate. I hope that is basic.
Yes.
So it's related to the urinary bladder, but it's not part of the system which we use to pass out urine, per se.
Yes, Dr. Muyaga. So basically, to a person out there, the prostate and the bladder are related in such a way that the tube which passes urine from the bladder to the outside it joins the bladder at its opening. The prostate sits around that tube. Oh. So basically, you have a structure which has been put there by God, sitting around the tube which passes urine, and that tube passes right through the middle of it. So because of its location, when you have anything that affects it, it's going to affect your ability to pass urine.
Interesting. Dr. Odongo, we have understood the basics of what the prostate is. And the discussion tonight is about prostate disease in men. Would you mind enlightening us about what prostate diseases we should be interested in men during the course of this discussion?
Yeah, prostate disease itself, that's a wide topic. But of course tonight we shall be more interested in benign prostate enlargement or benign prostate hyperplasia. But for the purpose of this, I can say benign prostate enlargement. Then there is prostate cancer, there is prostatitis, and other diseases of the prostate. Okay. But tonight we shall be interested in prostate enlargement. Now, this BPH is an age-related enlargement of the prostate. Like Dr. Masaba said, that the prostate sits just at the bladder outlet, and the tube that urine passes through from the bladder to the outside which is called the urethra. We call it the urethra. It's a tube. Passes through the prostate. It traverses the prostate. So if there is enlargement of the prostate, it will start compressing that tube that passes urine to the outside, causing symptoms that we shall see along the way. There are symptoms, and the most common is difficulty in passing urine, because now the prostate is enlarged and is compressing that tube. So that is common in the aged men. We rarely see this in the younger men who are 10 years, 20 years. You start seeing this in men who are older, like 50 years, 60 years, 80 years. That's what we see in the urology unit. Even in the urology OPD, that's what you see. Then the other one is prostate cancer. Prostate cancer, like we shall see, it also starts from the prostate glandular cells. It's a cancer that develops within the prostate. And again, I want to make it clear that prostate disease, we see it in men only. Because prostate is a man's thing.
I was going to ask you why you are leaving out ladies.
It's only found in men. And I've already said that most of these diseases of the prostate, we see it in older men. Like I mentioned, BPH is seen in the older men. Prostate cancer also in the older men. And of course, when you say cancer of the prostate, it starts from within the prostate, the glandular cells of the prostate. So when you say prostate cancer, that's a cancer that starts within the prostate. But there are other diseases like prostatitis, prostate abscesses. Those are infections. They are always infections within the prostate. But I think tonight we shall talk about BPH and prostate cancer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dongo. You have talked about BPH, and you used quite an interesting word. You said it's benign prostate hyperplasia. To someone out there, what do you mean by benign?
Benign means it is innocent. It's not a cancer.
It's not a cancer.
That is the meaning of the word benign.
But even in its innocence, it's still wreaking havoc on someone's body. Interesting. Yes. Okay. So the viewers out there would like to know why, first of all, we should be interested in prostate disease in men, of all topics. And second of all, is it possible for you to tell us about the burden of these prostate diseases within our population?
Prostate, like I said earlier on, it is an age-associated enlargement of the prostate. So as one grows old, the prostate enlarges. So we start seeing this in the older men, 50 years and above. So in men between 50 to 60 years, 60% are likely to have the disease. Then men between 60 to 70.
Interesting. You have said that
70%.
Allow me to rewind our discussion. You have said that in men who are how old?
50 to 60
50 to 60. That's 6 out of 10 who you find in that age group will have those issues.
Yes.
Interesting.
Then in men between 60 to 70 years, 70%.
70%
will have the problem. So which means 7 out of 10 will have. Then men between 70 to 80 years, 80% will have the problem. So which means the problem increases with age.
Wow.
Then men from 90 to 100, you see that 90% plus, they have the problem.
Wow. Wow.
So that's the burden, how it is related with age, the enlargement.
That's shocking because this is an age group where we feel people have served society and they need to enjoy life and rest, and instead the news you are giving me is that the more they age, the more this problem occurs within this population. It's interesting. So let us have a short break and we shall return and continue with this discussion.
You are watching the Doc Talk Show.
Fred!
Osmosis.
Freddy! Fred Dollar, my boss, CEO Inojo, the general of generals, the conqueror of conquerors, the first and the final, the sky above the skies, the promised land, the terms and the conditions, the international king crocodile, the source of the Nile.
I don't have money today.
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hassle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwao.
A weekly